So that Bohemia, Squad Bohemia thing, that was a joke. Most of my videos, they are aimed at helping to protect what is good in Reforger from ending up like Squad. And let's take a look at the graph here. You can see Reforger, when it came out, for a short time it had a lot of players, then it dropped, and the game was, as a multiplayer game, it was almost completely dead for, I think, a complete year almost. You see here, player numbers 200, 300 concurrent per day. And then I think it started rising. And I think the reason for it being almost dead wasn't because it was not like Squad. I think it was because of the technical issues. Like, I only started playing in, I think, June 2024. And by then, I think they had, it didn't crash all the time. And then it started rising. And then after that, it started rising. And I think it started rising not because it had some Squad features it copied, like the Squad marker system or the command trucks or spawning into the backpack. I think it's because of it avoided most of Squad features, and its natural advantage it has over other milsim games started to shine through. That's why you got the rise over here. And I think it will overtake Squad in a few weeks completely and leave it in the dust, I think. Now, if you look at Squad, at the graphics of Squad, notice when a new patch comes out, and the Squad developers, they're pretty aggressive with new patches, like new factions, new guns, new vehicles. There's usually a sharp rise in players, and then it immediately drops down again. And I think there are 4 reasons why Squad is like that and why Reforger is taking it over. And to summarize all the 4 reasons to one reason, it's, I mentioned it in a few videos before, it's the strategic depth, or to put it in other words, is that in Reforger, the tactical decisions you make or the tactical victories or failures that you make or have, they are allowed to echo through the game in time and space. So, for example, let's say you drive in with a BTR to attack Morton somewhere, and you're playing really well, or the enemy plays really bad with the anti-tank stuff. You take out most of the anti-tank player, then the frontline base has no more spawns to get anti-tank stuff, and then you can rampage through the area for 10 or 20 minutes, and the enemy doesn't have anything to oppose you with anti-tank. And that's a beautiful thing, because then the decisions you make can echo through time and space. They can echo through space because you can dominate kilometers around you with a weapon system, with the BTR, and in time, which means the enemy might take 10, 20 minutes to mount a counter to what you did. And Squad doesn't allow that. And Squad is like punching water. You punch a hole in the water, and the liquid immediately starts flowing back and smooths it out. And I think it's a functional problem with the game design of Squad, with the developers. So they always try to balance everything, keep it fair and balanced. So, for example, in Squad, if you play a main battle tank or any type of armored vehicle, immediately when you show up within any range of anti-tank weapon systems, you immediately get shot at by them. And the thing is, you might say it's realistic if they are in position, in the defensive position, you come up and they start shooting. But the problem is, even if you take them out, or if they miss their shots, they will respawn 500 meters away, and with the sole purpose in their life, like a Terminator, to get that next anti-tank shot off. And they won't care if they get back out alive. So you have these zombie anti-tank rushes going against tanks. So let's go through the 4 reasons. Now, the first reason is that in Refrogger, you have something to lose. So let's say, for example, you are attacking that town over here. Let's say somewhere over here, it's Everon South. And you're in the US team, and you got a 4-man team. And you just spent the last 15, 20 minutes playing together. And you're starting to sneak in that area, and you're expecting combat somewhere here, and suddenly a firefight starts. And as a player, you have 2 primary fears. The first fear is if your character gets killed, you have to respawn kilometers away. And the second fear is you lose the squad cohesion, because the players you play with together for the last 20 minutes, they become your buddies, and you really get emotionally attached to playing as a group. And then you have that fear of losing that. And here's the thing, that's a mistake Squad makes, and that's a mistake that I think Refrogger is trying to make, and that's partially why I'm making this video. The first reflex of game developers is players are fearing to lose their squad cohesion. Let's make it easier for them to keep squad cohesion, so let's add a stupid backpack spawn so they can spawn close to their squad mates, but only to their squad mates. And that's an extremely dumb idea, because you take away the fun from players of valuing something that they fear to lose. Because that makes it special. You play with a squad for 20 minutes, they're your best buddies in that game for that point in time, and then you get torn out of that action. have an idea. Let's do a line formation, like 10 meters between each other. And just go through the forest like that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Got it. Let's get the fight.
And that makes you really value those team play moments because you have something to lose. And the game should allow that fear to play out. That's why the game should remove all squad markers, all command track spawns, and especially the squad spawns for backpacks. Because that's one of the most destructive ideas that Milsim games have. And I think not sure what it was like in Battlefield 2 at the first time, but when they made the Battlefield, the reality mod, and then Squad was a successor to that, they basically carried over that stupid idea to other games. And then also plays into the strategic depth. Like, let's say you're a guy with a machine gun camping and you see a squad of players. You shoot at them. You can tear the squad cohesion apart. And so you have that, and they can also get you, then you have to spawn in the rear. And that's something you can fear. And that fear of losing stuff, that's an extremely powerful motivator to play the game. Now, the second reason is you don't know when the action happens. I think it's one of the best things in Refrogger to some extent. Unless you're fighting close to a base, then it's just zombies spawning and shooting. So you're sneaking through the valley, and you don't know if there's an enemy here, over there. And the enemy who's defending also doesn't know exactly where you are. And I think that's one of these weird special moments in Squad when in Refrogger, when you're running around with your buddies, and suddenly you see an enemy running through a tree line 400 meters away. And you start shouting contact, and everybody suddenly drops everything else they're doing, and they're switching in this hunting mode where they try to get the other player. And you can only get that when combat is unpredictable in time and place. And it's something you don't get in Squad again, because Squad's map are so too small, and they're built, like in Squad, there's some really terrible maps that are built like Dota maps, with main routes and secondary routes, and like, it's terrible the way they're built. Like, they're built to have like some balanced team deathmatch game. But in Refrogger, it's basically modeled like a real life place. See, it doesn't look like a combat arena, it looks like a normal place in which combat happens. Now, the third reason is you don't burn out on the action. That's a big advantage in Refrogger because you often have a 5 to 10 minute build up before you get into a firefight. And that makes the firefight special because the emotional peak of getting somebody in your crosshairs and starting to shoot, that's a rare thing, and you actually have to work quite hard to get to that point. So you value it more. Now, in Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Squad, or High Let Loose also, they constantly provide you with that emotional high. And I think the developers of those games, they're completely helpless when they don't know how to give you some emotional high in other ways. So they give you more of that action, more easy spawns, more convenient squad cohesion spawns. Like, everything is geared to keep you giving that emotional high. And the problem here is you start burning out of it. If you get that emotional high every minute, you just burn out of it. There's nothing special about it. And Refrogger, because of time and place, it can actually stretch the distance between the emotional highs. And again, some of the features in Refrogger, they're trying to copy Squad and destroy that feature by accident or just by not knowing what it does. Like, for example, squad spawns, command track spawns. That's why those things are so poisonous for a game like that. That's why I make so many videos about it. And the fourth reason is no time limit. Now, that's, I think, one of the best things in Refrogger, that you don't really have a time limit on a battle. Like, the battle is only over if, say in conflict, if you play large conflict, if you get 5 major flags, then the timer ticks down. And there's no overarching ticket system for total amount of ticket per match. And that's one of the best decisions the developers ever made for Refrogger. Not sure if they made it by accident or if the intention did it. Because that means in Refrogger, no matter at which point you join a match, you have the full intensity and the emotional attachment. Let's say you join a battle, you fight over Morton, then you fight over Levy in 1 or 2 hours, and the battle was raging on across the whole map 5 hours before and 5 hours after you're going to leave. And in Squad, it's different. In Squad, most matches are built to last 1 hour, 90 minutes maybe, because then you run out of tickets. And the problem is the first 10 minutes are extremely boring. Then you have 20 minutes of anticipation where you don't know who's winning. Then you have like 5 or 10 minutes of sort of the peak of the match. And then it goes down for one team the next half hour. So if you join half an hour into the match, you only get about the possibility of 10 or 20 minutes of emotional attachment. Whereas in Reforger, that you potentially have an indefinite amount of time where you can have emotional attachment. Now to get back to the graph. So that's why I made this video, is to, I think, to highlight that Reforger starts rising and overtaking Squad now because it avoided most of the mistakes Squad is making. And the things that it imitated from Squad, most of those things should be thrown out, like backpack spawns.